Over here on That Park Place, we've been covering the DAS situation over at Disney. You know, the one where they've changed their disability access service to not allow all disabled people to have disability access at the parks, possibly so that they can lower the lightning lane numbers, so that they can raise the prices that they charge guests. Well, it seems like Universal is responding, and even though often Universal will respond to price increases by raising prices the same, it seems like Universal is going to make it easier for disabled people to get into their disability access program. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Disney, and I never thought that we would be the go-to source for talking about disability access problems for the park. This tended to start with talking about Lightning Lane and the abuse of Lightning Lane and what's going on with Disney. Vash, do you want to bring people up to speed before we get to the most recent news on what has been going on with DAS? Because Marvin has been working on gathering information about what's been going on recently. But if you can give us the story so far.
Yes, so quite a few years ago, the GAC, or Guest Assistance Card, which Disney used to loosely give out to anybody who basically asked for it, was reimagined into the Disability Access Service. That goes back, I believe, I want to say 2013, 20 something or another. I can't remember quite when that system debuted, but the Disability Access Service is a service that people who have a disability who maybe, you know, depending on what they have, consider themselves not able to wait in the queues like everybody else, can request in order to opt into a system by which instead of waiting in those queues, you would actually make a digital reservation based on the report return time. You would wait somewhere else, and then you would get basically you would be put into like the fast pass lane, or some other accommodation would be met in order to get you on board that attraction. Well, that system worked well enough up until, well, a certain thing was debuted in October 2021 called Genie Plus, their Disney's paid skip the line service. People will remember that Fast Pass or Fast Pass Plus was a system that was included with your ticket purchase. Well, now it was going to be set aside for its own service that was a paid for feature. And ever since that time period, well, Disney at least has reported that there's been an increase in DAS usage. However, we here at That Park Place and other outlets have been keeping track of those lightning lanes that people will buy into through those services, and apparently those went up in their usage. However, lightning lane sales did not. So putting one together here, it does appear that DAS suffered from some abuse, and so it did hurt Disney's revenue when it came to their Fast Pass, now Genie Plus, multi-pass Lightning Lane service. And as we've just recently heard from the Wall Street Journal, who got access to some of those, reportedly leaked files from Disney, and which Disney responded to by actually dropping Slack, apparently $724 million in pre-tax revenue has been collected with those Lightning Lane sales. Right. So there was a plenty of incentive for Disney to maybe do something about this. Now, the course correction here, I'm sure, is what we're going to be talking about, and how maybe they overdid it.
Right. So we're going to this story out of the Daily Mail here for just a moment. Disney World fans slam theme park's new disability access service program, branding the application process as invasive, humiliating, and degrading. Marvin, you are a person that has been talking to a lot of people who have gone through this interview process. Do you want to describe some of the issues that have come up here?
Well, yes. The words invasive, humiliating, and degrading are all things that I've heard from people that I know who have gone through the process. Also devastating, because so many people that I know who actually need this service are being denied the service, because Disney is basically like, I don't even know how to, like, what a good analogy of it would be, other than there's an episode of Orange is the New Black where they try to like get people to prove their religion, because people are trying to order kosher meals because they're better than the regular prison meals. And it's basically that, like, they go above and beyond to try to trip you up and try to make it so that they can do anything else to make you pay for this Lightning Lane service. It is it's a one-on-one video conference call with a cast member who's going to ask you a lot of questions, and basically it is their job to find a reason to deny you. It is not their job to help you find accommodations. It is their job to find a reason to deny you accommodations. And then, when you ask to speak to a manager, the things I've been hearing about that is once you go to the manager, the managers are just completely like, well, if you don't like it, don't come, essentially. It's been a very terrible change to a program. And look, were there people, look, the system they had was ripe with abuse. I do agree with that. However, I think that the way to kind of go about that differently is if you need different accommodations, you should have to provide some kind of medical provider proof that you need that you need this. Yeah, because once that, with that, there should be no more questions asked if you have a signed doctor's note, but they don't even want to see a doctor's note.
Right.
I have friends who are like, listen, I have a note from a doctor. I have a note from a psychiatrist. I have a note from medical professionals who state that I need this. And Disney won't even look at it. They say, we don't go by the exact quote I heard was, we don't go by diagnosis. We don't go by diagnosis.
So for the people who are not aware at this point, to quote the Daily Mail, in addition, the process now includes a new lengthy interview procedure. And now a series of disabled park goers are talking to the Daily Mail. Just reading this one. One Disney fan, Shannon Bonadurer, who has several debilitating conditions, told DailyMail.com that she was left heartbroken after she was forced to share intimate details about her medical history with a cast member, only to be denied the past. I think the past. Sorry, this is the kind of thing that I don't think they would put cast members quite in this situation when it was a bit more of a judgment call. This is Disney cast members are supposed to be people who give you things, for lack of a better way to put it. They're supposed to be your key to unlocking a better experience here. Obviously, this is not something that should be abused, but we used to be able to rely on people to not want to claim that they are disabled. But it sounds like as Disney went to Lightning Lane Plus or Lightning Lane Genie Plus and then Lightning Lane Multipass and all these paid systems, there became a financial incentive to do this, or rather a not having to spend $30 per person reason to do this. So as Disney is saying, we don't want you to talk to a medical professional, we want you to talk to our cast member. Over here, this one out of Universal Parks News Today, which is a division of WDWNT, they're saying the IBCCES accessibility card is no longer required for accommodations at Universal Orlando Resorts.
And I think this is dumb. The IBCCES card is super easy to get if you actually need it. And
right, explain it for Square
process.
Right, explain it to Square One for someone who does not know how disability access goes at Universal. And this is the same system that SeaWorld has used in the past, as well.
And Six Flags uses it as well. This is through a company called IAC. It's a third-party organization. You go through them. You have to upload your doctor's note. You have to have documentation from a medical professional, and you talk to them over there, and then they forward the information over to Universal. There's nothing identifiable about it, but it is. It basically tells the folks at Universal, yes, this guest needs this service. And then Universal can basically just look at your IBCCES card and be like, okay, you need it. And, Universal would then call you to kind of like just double check that how they could help. And then once you were approved in the system, it became super easy. They have dedicated lines at Universal, both outside and inside the parks, to re-up it, because you do have to re-up your Universal disability pass every like 2 weeks or so. Whereas at Disney right now, the DAS is actually up to 6 months. They're granting the DAS for.
Right. So these are the changes, because Disney is at least they're not asking you to prove it twice within the 6 month period here. That short window, and how I wonder if this is a response to how traumatic it sounds like these interviews are. Traumatic might be an overstatement for 90% of people. I think it is frustrating and bewildering to a lot of people who qualify for disability access everywhere else to be told, no, you don't qualify. Go practice standing in line at home or find somewhere else to go. We shared a video from a TikTok user. It was a young woman in a wheelchair, and it looked like she had a ventilator. And I get it that might not impact her ability to sit in line. It might even, in fact, it might for that specific person. And this is theorizing in a dangerous way because I'm not saying it is. It might be easier for her to quote unquote stand in line because she's sitting in line. I'm not saying that that's how it goes, but Disney used to shy away so far from the appearance of not treating people with respect that they would just go ahead and go with it here.
You know, I have one friend who was planning a Disney trip, and they asked me about DAS, and I said, okay, well, this is how it works, but you really need to prepare yourself for the fact that you might not get it. And they laughed at me. They were like, oh, come on. Like, I'm literally on medical disability. Like, I get this everywhere. There's no way they could not possibly legally deny me this. They got denied.
It is extremely difficult. And one of the things I want to point out here when you're talking about this third service or with medical documentation in general, back in 2013, Disney was saying the same line, that they couldn't take any medical documentation at all when it came to DAS evaluation. And at the time, they cited HIPAA laws, which is very interesting. And that was the suspicion as to why Universal may have employed a third party in this way. Now, there were reports, unverified and unconfirmed, but there were reports that this third-party service was facing maybe a little bit of legal opposition, and perhaps that may have impacted Disney's decision in order to enlist or go through the system that they eventually opted for, and perhaps it may have impacted Universal's decision to maybe not maintain the requirement for a system like this. Now, what's interesting is I believe Universal has also expanded the time period by which you keep your disability access service, at least the Universal's version of it.
Saying here, yeah.
I think it's like a year now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in saying this, it sounds like while Disney is tightening up their restrictions here, and there was a rumor, and we heard this, and I think that this is a true rumor. It's just that they ended up not going through with it, that Disney was considering using this accessibility card program in order to verify DAS, but they preferred to go with this system that puts you in touch with a cast member. And this has to be a nightmare for the cast members who are involved. Honestly, it reminds me of a time where there was a guy who told me what his job was going to be, and he didn't realize he was going to be the person who contacts people to tell them that their home was being foreclosed on. And we're like, do you want to do that for a living? So you're just telling me now you want to be an alcoholic, essentially, because you're going to be telling people that they're losing their homes for a living. This is the job that I cannot imagine who would sign up for this job at Disney.
It is a no-win scenario, Jonas. It is, you either have to break somebody's heart who's trying to reach out about a medical condition, or you approve them, and then your manager probably comes down on you for approving too many, because I'm sure they have a quota of how many people they're allowed to, to approve, because this is all numbers and checked boxes for them in terms of money when it comes to Lightning Lane.
Oh, I'm sure. And it gets even worse too. From what I understand, I have heard this report, and I require confirmation of it. Anyway, what I'm hearing is that you have to actually buy your tickets first before you can even.
We've heard many sources
attempt these. Yeah, and which the bad news about that is maybe you opted into a vacation in which you were expecting something like this to be available, and now you can't back out of it. You have no choice, and your tickets are non-refundable, non-transferable.
Well, and here's another thing I've been speculating on recently is that I think that the people that typically do get approved for this are people with autism, people with neurodivergent issues. Those kinds of people, a lot of them would take a look at what you have to do to get this pass, like the super high stress video call with a cast member, and that might make them not even try to get it. And I bet you that's part of the reason they do this.
That's a very good point. I had not thought about that. That's a great point, Marvin. So we have gone over on time here for this show but I wanted to cover this. And yes, it's it's unusual that we have a show where we only cover the parks in this little way here. But I think it's fascinating that yet again it seems like Universal is pulling back against restriction. They're making it so you don't even have to certify. You can just go and literally talk to someone and certify that you should be getting their IAC, which is their equivalent to DAS. And Disney is moving in an entirely different direction here. I go back to that idea that the Disney of the 90s seems to be alive and well over there at Universal Studios. I don't get it.
And it sounds to me, Jonas, like if you have the IAC pass, it just expedites the process for you in getting the attraction assistant pass at Universal. Now, I'm wondering if they've integrated this into their app yet, because as of right now, Universal's system is they basically give you a sheet of like a sheet of paper that has to be physically filled out by a team member at every attraction,
Right.
like where they write down the times and everything. The one thing Disney does have over them is DAS is fully integrated into the My Disney Experience app, so you set it up just like you would set up a normal Lightning Lane.
Yeah, and the, like Marvin was saying, the user can facilitate those return times themselves rather than having to actually go and physically make it over to each entrance of each attraction that you actually want to go to and have them actually fill it out. It's a much more simplistic system. But here's the thing, the labor calculation in this is also being considered. I think Disney just announced that they were going to lengthen the DAS period, the re-up period, if only to cut down on the lines that they're experiencing right now with people having to go through this process multiple times.
Yep.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.